Hi everybody, it's Christy Forsyth with Clarity by Christy, and today we are on class, I guess it's class 4, and today we're going to be, I decided I switched things up a little bit because I really wanted to dive in a little bit more deeply before we get into some of the other stuff, to take a look at thoughts and shifting our thoughts, because I think that we touched on some of that stuff last time. We certainly touched on the idea that thoughts create things, and that this is how we are able to manifest things in our world, and we touched on affirmations a little bit, but I really want to dive into that more because I think that this is an area that so many people, that really all of us, struggle with in some way. So we're going to be diving into that, but let's pull some cards for the week before we get started. And again, I want to thank you all for your patience in this crazy time in my life with, the structure of this class being a little bit some different days here and there and stuff like that. I really, really appreciate that. It's been so helpful to me, and I hope that you're getting lots out of it. So let's see what the cards have to say for our group today. I'm going to pull some mermaid cards today. Oh, so this is a good card. I like this card. Waves of prosperity, new abundance, and exciting opportunities wash over you now. And I'll hold that a little bit closer in case you want to see the image, because we've been working on connecting with the cards and the images. So, I want to reiterate, because I know there are some comments about that. You could look at this card and connect in no way, shape, or form with the actual words that are on this card. Maybe some of the symbols on this card mean more for you and they connect in a totally different way. This card could mean something completely different for you. You might connect with it in a completely different way. And that is going to be the correct interpretation for you, because again, we are reading from our frame of reference. So you want to make sure that you are just honoring that within yourself and that you're trusting that within yourself. I know that Jennifer had posted her cards, and she said, Christy, what do you think? And this class is about you guys learning to trust yourself, and I think that that's really, really important. So I'm just going to support whatever it is that feels right for you. So if it feels right for you, then chances are it is, because really this is how we continue to develop and work on our intuition, is learning how to trust ourselves, is learning how to just honor that first instinct, because a lot of times with intuition, it's the very first thought that comes through. And what we tend to do is that very first thought comes through, we tend to question it, and we tend to push that aside, and we'll take thought number 2 or thought number 3 or whatever. And what happens is we're actually missing the intuitive thought, because the intuitive thought will oftentimes come through faster than the logical mind. And so we want to go with that very first response, that very first thought that comes through, because oftentimes that is the intuitive thought. And we also want to go again from your frame of reference. Now, I could look at the cards that you pull, and I could, see certain things on it and get more messages for you. So technically I could get more messages for you, but I think more importantly that you guys are getting the messages for yourselves, and that you're trusting those messages that you're getting, because this is how we're flexing that intuitive muscle, right? So let's pull another card for our group. Oh, and this makes sense. This fits with the energy that we have going on right now. Contemplation time. So this says, spend time alone meditating upon what you truly desire, okay? So this is a great lead-in to me checking in with how you guys are doing with the meditation. The meditation is one of those homework assignments that is probably the most important homework assignment that you have, is to work on incorporating that, if possible daily, or at least several times a week, minimal, well, do what you can, but minimal, I would say 3 days a week, but more often is better, because we need to be able to plug back into that higher self. We need to be able to connect and receive these downloads that we're meant to receive. We need to receive the information that we're meant to receive. And people will say to me, well, Christy, all I feel is relaxed. I don't really notice that I get a whole lot out of it. But what I would say to you is notice what happens in your waking state. You know, do you feel a little bit more intuitive? Do you feel like you have messages coming through? Because a lot of times it's a download and it kind of will pop to the surface, you know, throughout your day or throughout your life when it's ready, when it's time. So you might, and a lot of times too, I know for me when I first started meditating, I had this pressure of, oh my gosh, like I'm going to do this meditation and I'm going to meet my guides and I'm going to see all this stuff and it's going to be this crazy psychedelic experience, and it just wasn't that for me at first, you know, and I really had to let go of that. That was when I started to have some cool experiences with meditation. But what I find is that some people never have experiences that their conscious mind is aware of, but they get a lot of benefits from it. So even if you're a little bit more relaxed, even if you're a little bit more mellow, there's a benefit for you. But what you are doing consistently and regularly are plugging back into source. It's kind of like when your phone battery is going low, you know, probably every day you have to charge your phone. You know, you have to plug your phone in. And can we plug ourselves in to receive that? So that meditation, that is your most important homework assignment. So if you're not doing that, I encourage you to start doing that now. That will help you to take advantage of everything that we're working on. And I did post a hypnosis session for all of you guys. Check that out. That can be your meditation for the day. It'll take you a little bit deeper. It'll take you into relaxation. And I'm going to be posting a couple more as well. So keep an eye out for those too. All right, let's pull one more card. And this one says, blessed change. A major life change brings you great blessings. Okay, so we might be expecting some changes this week or in this period in our life. And that fits, you know, as we're working on changing ourselves, because as we change our insides, we are changing our outsides, and people are going to be responding to the change in our auras, because when you change your aura, when you bring more light into your aura, people will respond. So hey, this is actually, it makes me think about a fun experiment to try to do with your energy. So, you know, take a few minutes and before you leave your house or something, just like imagine that you're pulling all of this light into you, that you're inviting all of this light into your body, and that you're inviting all of this light into your aura. So you might do that similar to the meditation that I posted, but really think about making that very, very bright and big and sparkly. And then I want you to go someplace in public where there's going to be a lot of people and just notice how people respond to you. Do you notice that people respond differently to you? Do you notice that people are drawn to you? Do you notice that people look at you more or will speak to you more? It's really kind of fun to see the differences, how people respond to that. Or you might even do that, you know, if you might do that before you go to work one day and just see how your work day goes. Like, do your coworkers respond differently to you? Do people seem to respond differently to you? Because what we're doing is we're setting the intention that we're creating a really beautiful energetic field around us, and people will feel that. I promise you'll notice some differences. But what's really cool, I think, is when you can see strangers responding to it and not understanding. So they might like just be looking at you, they might come closer to be in your energy field. You're probably going to get a lot of heads turning and facing you, so it's a really interesting experience to have. All right, so those are our cards. I also wanted to talk about goal check-in, okay? So we are week 4. We have a couple weeks left. So let's check in with goals. How are things going? How are you feeling like you're doing? Maybe take a look at your list, and then you probably had a revised list because we talked about maybe something shifted from first class to this class. So how are you doing? Where are you at? You know, do you still have the same goals? Do they still feel the same? Are you needing to make some tweaks so that we can continue on this course towards our goals? And the expectation is not that these goals are going to be completed by the end of the class, but maybe some of them were, but you know, by the end of this class, I intend to X, Y, and Z. But you know, are you making progress? Do you need to make some tweaks? Are you not squeezing in the things that you intended to squeeze in? Where are you at with this stuff? So check in with yourself, check in with your progress, and maybe do a little bit of problem solving around what it is that you need to help make this happen for yourself, to hold yourself accountable and responsible for those goals that you set for yourself. So, but also give yourself some grace. I think that's really important too. So we're going to talk about tools for changing your mind and changing your life, okay? Because to me, thoughts are, I mean, I talked about this quite a bit last week. Thoughts are really important. Our thoughts create our world. And I think a lot of you guys, I think I've talked about how I have a background in psychology. My master's degree is in psychology. And a big part of my approach with psychology and in my work with clients was to do what they call cognitive behavioral therapy. And the cognitive piece of that was working on thoughts, because it's based on the idea that if you can change your perception, you can change the way that you feel. So you guys will see, I'm going to post these handouts tonight for you. I want to just show you in here the handout. So it looks like it's probably backwards, but that's okay, because I want to use this as a demonstration, okay? So what we have happen in our lives is we will have an event happen. You know, so all day, every day, we have these little events or big events or situations happen in our life. So we have the event, right? And over here, we have the way that we feel about the event. But what we have in the middle is the interpretation, okay? So the interpretation is absolutely key in any given situation to how you're feeling, okay? So if you find yourself feeling really anxious in a particular situation, chances are your interpretation of the situation, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, led to this feeling of anxiety, led to this buildup in the anxiety. So what we want to do is to start to become more mindful of the way that we think about things. This is really, really, really important. So what you want to do is begin to sort of break it down from, because a lot of times what happens is people will say, well, this happened and I felt this, and this person did this and I felt this, and we struggle with that piece of it. But what happens is we have this interpretation in the middle that we're forgetting about, right? So it's not necessarily the event that happened that led to the feeling, but it's the interpretation of the event that happened. So I can say, and I've been using a lot of examples, but this has been my life lately, from me being in the hospital. And one of the things that I was really mindful of the entire time I was there was how I was perceiving things, you know, because I could have, it was a shitty situation, right? You know, my kid's in the hospital, my kid is very, very sick, and it was a very scary situation, and I could have chosen to dwell on the thinking around that. I could have chosen to say, you know, that this is awful, and I feel, and that would have put me into a deep, deep depression. I could have focused on all of that, but I would have been anxious and fearful and depressed and all of these things. But what I chose to do is to be really, really mindful of my perception in the situation. So when I would catch myself going into a really negative place of feeling helpless, feeling like a victim, feeling like, why is the universe doing this to me? You know, why is this happening to me? It's okay to have these thoughts, and it's okay to acknowledge these thoughts. We just don't want to live in these thoughts, because as you can see, that probably feels pretty bad. It probably feels pretty helpless. It makes you anxious. It feels depressing. And so it's not really a good feeling connected with those types of thoughts. So what I chose to do, as often as I was aware of it and as often as I possibly could, was to find things to be grateful for in that moment. So I would, you know, catch myself like, oh, this situation really sucks. Uh-oh, is my camera losing connectivity here? All right, well, it says it's recording, so hopefully it's good. So I would say to myself, you know, rather than say to myself, or I would catch myself saying, this really, really sucks, you know, this is a terrible situation, then I would say, but wait a minute, what's a better thought that I could possibly have? So gratitude for me is kind of a go-to. So I would say, well, this is a really nice time that I'm having with my son. I don't get this much quality time with my son ever, you know, like for us to spend this much time. And I really was feeling like through the process we were very much bonding and connecting on a whole new level that we just wouldn't have if it weren't for this experience. And so we were going through all of that. And I was focusing on the gratitude for that. And I was focusing even on the fact that I had been feeling so tired and asking the universe for a break from everything, actually a paid break from everything. And that's kind of what I manifested accidentally, you know, because so many people helped out through the GoFundMe and things like that, that I was able to take time away from work. I was able to be with my son, and I didn't have to necessarily worry about my bills being paid in that process. So that was really, really wonderful. So I was finding ways to have thoughts around gratitude around that, and the fact that as much as it's not very restful in the hospital, I did have some downtime, you know, where he was doing stuff and I was able to just sort of chill and watch TV. I never really get to do that. So, you know, I was just trying to find those things that I could be grateful for, or those thoughts that would feel just a little bit better. And I would start to think about, wow, you know, we're really lucky that we're here with these doctors, and these doctors really know what they're doing, and they're really caring, and how wonderful. And I'm so grateful for people in the helping profession. And I just started to do that. And as you can see, that feels quite a bit better. That feels like gratitude. That feels like thankfulness. And those kind of things. So that was kind of how I made it through that situation. One of the ways that I made it through that situation, and tried to just work on that thinking around that. So what you can do is to start to bring your awareness to that. You can start to kind of break that down a little bit. And I recommend that you actually keep a log of this for a little while, because you'll be surprised how many thoughts you're having that you're not consciously aware of. You know, it can oftentimes feel like the event happens and then we feel something related to it, but there's always a perception in the middle of that. So I would encourage you to kind of explore that and get to know yourself on a deeper level. What are these thoughts that you're thinking, and how are they making you feel, and how could you have a better feeling thought that might be more helpful to you? And that can be challenging, you know. I talked last week about that emotional ladder that we want to travel up, and sometimes you can't just like jump from the bottom of the ladder all the way up to the top. So you really want to find a thought that feels a little bit better, or doesn't feel too far out of your ability to have that thought. You know, it has to kind of be a genuine thought for you. So you just want to search for what's going to feel a little bit better, and then you can continue to work your way up. So what I would recommend is that you keep a little bit of a log with this, and you might include this in your book that you already have, or you might get a different notebook for that, whatever you want to do. But what I say is start to pay attention when you have a feeling that is uncomfortable, okay? So anytime that you feel anxious, anytime that you feel sad, anytime that you feel hurt, anytime that you feel angry, any of those emotions that feel more uncomfortable. And then I want you to kind of pause and think about, okay, and you might write this down again. So you might write the feeling down, and then you might try to identify what the thought was that happened right before the feeling. And you can also try to identify what the event was that triggered the thought that triggered the feeling. And so you could essentially, again, I'm going to bring you to my visual aid here. You could have a chart with lines in the middle, so 3 columns here, and you could write the feeling down first, but that would be in the last row, the last column, and then you would try to figure out, okay, so what was the event that seemed to trigger this, and more importantly, what was my interpretation of the event? What thought did I have that seemed to trigger this response? You know, it's a really different situation, or it can be a really different situation based on your perception. So, for example, I have people talk a lot. People make a lot of assumptions about other people and about what other people think. And I've been lucky enough to see people's insides for a really long time doing counseling work and doing soul therapy. So I hear stuff and I've heard stuff long enough that I recognize that we all have so many misperceptions about people and how much other people think of us, or don't think of it. Like, we just have all these misperceptions, and so we can make assumptions about people that are totally incorrect. So I'll give an example. Let's say that you call a friend and you leave a voicemail and you don't hear back. And so you start to get really sad or angry or anxious or upset or whatever it is that you're feeling, and you ask yourself, what is the thought that I'm having? And let's say that the thought you're having is, oh, they just don't want to talk to me. They don't care about me. Nobody cares about me. And this is just an example of like where those thoughts could go. And there could be many thoughts there, by the way. Our brain is really capable of having multiple thoughts all at once and very rapid. So let's say that you go through that whole process and you start to, the feeling is, geez, I feel really uncared for. I feel really unloved. I feel sad. I feel hurt. That's kind of a crappy feeling, right? And what you want to do, though, is ask yourself, is there a better explanation for this than the thought that I have had? So I've called my friend, I left a message, I didn't hear from them, and my immediate response, or my response when I didn't hear from them at the end of the day, was, maybe they don't care about me, or nobody cares about me. You could go into some really deep things with this. And I think you have to ask yourself, is that a realistic thought? Is that a helpful thought? I don't think it's a very helpful thought, so you might challenge yourself a little bit. You might begin to challenge that thought and replace it with something else. And so you might explore, what are the other possible options here? Why didn't my friend call me back, other than the possibility that I'm unlovable, right? Or that they don't care about me. And there's a million possibilities. I know for me, I'm not fantastic at calling people back. One, because calls are just not my thing, okay? So if you call me, it's going to take a while for you to hear back from me. Not because I don't care, but if you text me, I will text you back much more quickly. Maybe they're really busy. I know for me, I'm getting all kinds of texts on my phone all day long, and I have a lot to respond to. So, maybe it's a situation like that where they missed a text or missed your call and they didn't get to it right away. I know that, for me, I have kids and I get very busy and time runs out by the end of the day, and then it's too late to return a phone call, or it feels too late, or there's so many possibilities. Or maybe somebody ended up working late and they weren't able to get to their phone to call you back, and they intend to call you back soon. Or maybe they just got really busy and they forgot. There's so many possibilities, is my point. And so one of those things that you want to do when you're taking a look at that thought and changing that thought is ask yourself, is there a possibility, is there a more realistic explanation for this? Or how can I challenge this thought to make it more of a realistic way of thinking? Because we have all these misperceptions about the world and about people, and we really want to start to challenge some of those things. So I would love to hear examples in comments, or you guys are welcome to send me a private message if you prefer to do that privately, but just some of those things that you catch yourself saying to yourself. And maybe on some level we understand it, and we kind of understand that it's unrealistic, but we let it stick around anyway. Or maybe we're starting to raise our vibration, so we're starting to recognize how unrealistic it is, but it's still one of those things that's sticking around. But begin to challenge that thinking a little bit. Begin to figure out what's going to be a better feeling thought so that you are feeling better and more positive. The more you can work on this thinking, the better you're going to feel. So it's really important that you start to work on the thinking. And what I would say to you is, this is a process. It's like working on changing your thoughts is like a big thing. We have so many of these thoughts are coming from the unconscious mind, which is 90% of your brain. that's a big part of your brain, and it takes time to change this. And this is where we were talking about the affirmations last time. It takes time to change the brain. It takes repetition. And so what will happen is, as you begin this process of, one, being aware of your thoughts, and two, challenging and replacing your thoughts, eventually what will happen is that will become more easy. That will become just almost a little bit more of an automatic process for you. But it's going to take some work on the front side of that. It's going to take some time, because your automatic response right now is whatever these thoughts are that you're writing down. So that is kind of your automatic thoughts. And what we want to do is, over time, replace those automatic thoughts with better feeling thoughts. And so that's going to take that practice. That's going to take that work to be able to get you there. So have patience with yourself. Understand that it's going to take that repetition. So just keep doing it over and over and over again. And what you're doing is you're training your brain to see the world and perceive the world in a different way. I always say that we can look at a situation from so many different perspectives, and I encourage you to try to look at things from a different perspective. When we can look at the world and we can see all of the things that are wrong with it. There's so many things that are wrong in this world, and I could go outside right now and I could look at the way that people are behaving, or what things look like around, and I could start to judge that, and I could start to be negative about that, and I could allow that to bring my vibration down, and I could allow that to make me feel bad and make me feel negative and like this isn't a great world to live in. Or I could go out and I could imagine that I'm putting on, I always say, like, put on your love glasses, right? Look at the world with love and begin to look around and notice the things that you love about the world. I promise you that feels different than noticing what's wrong, nitpicking about things about people and nitpicking things about the world, So choosing instead to put on your love glasses and look at the world in a different way. Look at your friends and family in a different way through those love glasses. Let go of the judgment. Let go of trying to change them or control them in some way, and just kind of view them as they are in love. That is one of the most powerful things that you can do here in this world, is to just love without judgment, without needing to change, but just love somebody and honor them who they are. And by the way, what happens when we can do that is they start to make some shifts. They start to make some changes because they're feeling the power of that energy and they're wanting to be in alignment with that. So that's really powerful. So it doesn't mean, that you're not going to be annoyed by things or upset by things, but the more that you redirect it, the more that you are putting on those love glasses, that you're a love detective and looking for what's right in this world and what's awesome about your life and what's awesome about the people in your life, the better you're going to feel. So just starting to think about that, and so that would be a really great activity for you guys, is to say, today I'm going to put on my love glasses and I'm going to try to view everything through those love glasses. I'm going to view people through those glasses. I'm going to view my life. I'm going to view my home, my situation, my work. And it's amazing the wonderful things that you find when you start to put on those love glasses. And I guess that's what I'm talking about with the hospital is I began, even under some of the most challenging circumstances, to put my love glasses on, to find appreciation even in really, really challenging circumstances. So just giving some thought to that, I think that that's really important. And the more that we shift our thinking, the more that we can get that to move in that direction. What's really amazing is we talked about manifesting last week. We talked about allowing. You are at a higher vibration. You have more positive energy, the more positive thoughts you have, which means you are going to manifest those things that you've been writing down. So I hope that you guys have done some manifestation writing, that you've done a little bit of practice with that, or some visualization, or whatever works for you. And this will help you to take those manifestations to the next level and actually help them to manifest into your experience. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. I wanted to come back to affirmations for a few minutes, just because I feel like I touched on those and I talked about those, and I hope that you all created your list that you're working on. But I just wanted to kind of add to those just in case you needed to like tweak a little bit, just in case you need to make some changes or you want to make some changes to your list, because I feel like I brushed over some things. So basically, an affirmation is a positive statement that we repeat because it is for the purpose of making our brain believe it. So it's for the purpose of motivating us and motivating our brain. So again, when you write down an affirmation, you're not necessarily going to believe it. In fact, it's kind of the goal thought. I think I said that last week. This is the goal thought that you want to have. And so as you say it out loud, as you repeat it in your mind, it might feel a little bit like bullshit to you, you know, but the more that you practice it and the more you work on raising your vibration in other ways and doing your work, and the more you repeat these affirmations over and over and over again, it takes time, it takes repetition, but eventually the brain will fall in line with that. I want to talk about what makes a good affirmation, and you'll find this in the handouts, but what makes a good affirmation is it's usually in the present tense. And this is really similar to manifestation, right? We want to talk about it as though it already is. So it's something that's in the present tense. It's something that is positive. Again, this is in alignment with that manifestation writing or those things that we are manifesting. And it is short and specific. So you don't want to necessarily have an affirmation, probably, unless it really connects for you. But you don't want to have one that's like this whole really long paragraph or something. Just one sentence or two sentences for a particular affirmation usually is pretty good. When you are saying your affirmation, because I don't think I talked about this, what will bump it up, whether it's your affirmation or whether you're reading your manifestation writing out loud, is to pull in the feeling that you would like to feel. So if you are trying to pull in the feeling of, you know, let's say one of your affirmations is simply, I am calm, you know, so you're working on being calm. You might, while you're repeating the affirmation, really invite in a feeling of calm. What does the body feel like when it's calm? What does the brain feel like when it's calm? And just inviting that into your experience, because that will help to strengthen the affirmation, and it will help the brain to make those adaptations and manifest that for you much more quickly. And then I gave some examples of affirmations. So you will find those. There is a list of those right with your handouts. I'll read you a few of them, but it's a really nice list, and so you can have that to use as some examples of affirmations, but certainly whatever it is that you guys came up with, I'm sure is amazing as well. So I can choose a positive frame of mind. I can handle whatever comes. Today has limitless possibilities. I really like that one. I think that's a really nice one. We talked about when you first wake up in the morning, having those things that you say. I love that as an affirmation for starting your day. Today has limitless possibilities. I can find balance in my own life. So do you see how I can handle whatever comes feels really different than, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't handle this. That's a really different thing. So you can actually use these affirmations and use this list of affirmations to help give you better feeling thoughts. So if you're finding yourself feeling anxious and the thought is, I can't do this, I'm so overwhelmed, I've got so much going on, take a breath, take a break, and try to replace that with, I can handle whatever comes. How much more powerful does that feel? How different does that feel for you to say that to yourself? I know for me, like, I can just feel such a difference in the energy even in speaking that. I can handle whatever comes. So look for that affirmation, that list of affirmations. I will post that so you have that with the handouts so that you can take a look at those. I would love to read the affirmations that you guys have come up with for yourselves. So feel free to share those in comments or send those to me as well. And the last thing that I want to talk about today in terms of thoughts, because we've talked about manifestation, we've talked about challenging your thoughts. I hope that makes sense. If you're finding yourself, by the way, struggling with to challenge a particular thought, you're like, you know that it's not a helpful thought, you know that it's making you feel bad, but you don't know how to challenge it, I would say send me a message and let's talk about it. Let's try to figure that out, or post it in the group, even better if you're feeling open enough to do that, because I think as we're posting in the group, as we're opening up, as we're sharing things, other people can learn through that process. So I'm really loving you guys for posting things, for sharing things, for being so open, because I think that this is a really great way for all of us to learn. And actually, that makes me think. So Jennifer Cutton had asked about what about when tarot cards are reversed? So I'm going to answer that here because it's a lot easier for me to answer that here than for me to try to type that out. So with tarot cards, let's say that you pull one that is reversed. So let's just pull one up. One of the, it kind of depends. And this is where your intuitive voice is really going to be very important, because I tend to read it different ways, different times. So sometimes when it's reversed, I interpret that to mean the opposite of how I would interpret that card upright. Okay, so that's one of the ways. Another way is I will interpret it as, maybe it's less of an impact than it would be upright. So to kind of show that, highlight that. So this one says, watch your thoughts, which is so funny that I pulled this card as we're talking about thinking. So watch your thoughts. It's important to only think about what you desire, not what you fear. Okay, so there's a message for all of us. But let's say that I pulled this reversed, okay? I might take that to say, okay, so you've started to work on your thinking. You've started to, if I'm going to interpret it as like the lesser of, okay? So you started to work on your thinking. You've started to make some improvements. You still have a bit of work to do ahead of you, but this is acknowledging that you are starting to be aware. You are starting to watch that thinking. You are starting to pay attention to your thoughts, and you're starting to challenge those a little bit. So that's an example of how you might interpret that as, a lesser version of how it would be upright. If you wanted to interpret it as the opposite of how it would be upright, you might, in this situation, you might say, okay, so it looks like you're doing a really great job at watching your thoughts, and you're being really aware of how you're thinking. The third way that I tend to interpret when they are reversed is that this is an energy that is trying to arrive into your experience, but it hasn't quite manifested yet. Okay, so I probably with this particular card reversed, I wouldn't interpret it like that, but let me see. Let me find one that I would maybe, okay, like maybe you're blocking that energy in some way, or it hasn't quite manifested. So this would be an example of how you might block an energy, okay? So this one says, accept heaven's help. Accept heaven's help. So I might, if this was reversed, I might say, you're not allowing heaven to help you. You have, you're trying, or maybe you've prayed for things, you've asked for things, but you're not allowing. You've got to step out of the way. You've got to invite God to help, and you've got to surrender. You're not surrendering. So I might recognize that when this card is reversed, that there's a big block going on for this person, that they're blocking themselves through their actions. So as you see, like, it's a little complicated for that. Let's see. So all right, so let's do this one. So empowerment, let's say that this empowerment card was reversed. I might say, I might feel like, okay, it feels like you're making some progress in this area, but you are not quite there yet. This is something that's trying to come through. I can feel you working on it. I can feel you taking steps in that direction, but you're not quite feeling empowered just yet. So let's take a look at some of the blocks that are going on that maybe are preventing you from getting there. What changes could you make in your behavior? What things might you do that will help to get you from point A to point B, that will help to get you to this feeling of empowerment, because I feel like you're taking steps in that direction. I feel like you're doing some things in that direction, but you aren't quite connecting with or feeling this empowerment yet. And Spirit is really wanting to help connect you with that feeling. So you can get a sense of that, but most importantly, you just want to do it intuitively. So you just want to sort of feel that out. Okay, so this card is reversed. How am I feeling about that? What is the feeling around that? What does this mean to me? How do I want to interpret this? How do I intuitively interpret this? And so there's no black and white answer to that. Now, some people choose never to read their cards reversed. That's certainly something that you might start with as you are starting to read cards, just to get comfortable with your cards, just to develop a relationship with them. You might say, I'm not going to read any of these cards reversed. So if a card shows up reversed, I'm going to flip it over and have everything be upright. So you certainly have that option, but if you want to take it to another level and you want to keep growing with that, what I would recommend is starting to work in the reversals, and this will help you and kind of force you to tap into that intuition on an even deeper level. So I hope that answers that question. How are you guys doing with card readings? Are you, is everybody kind of using cards a little bit? Do you have questions about that? Are things popping up for you that you need help with? So the last thing I want to do for class today, let me put these cards down, is I want to talk about tapping. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with tapping, but this is a tool that I think is incredibly helpful for anything. So we're talking about today, change your mind, change your life. And tapping to me really just helps not only change your mind, but help your whole system. It is such a helpful tool, whether you're trying to calm down, whether you're trying to get your mind clear, whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's a helpful tool. The first time that I went to a counseling, it was like a counselor training, and they presented the idea of tapping, I just thought that it looked really, really silly. And I said, I'm not learning that. I'm not interested in learning that, and I'm not interested in sharing that with my clients because it looks really stupid. But through the years, what I found was people started to talk about tapping, and people started to talk about how much tapping works. And there's a lot of research about tapping, but nobody really completely agrees on why it works. Everybody's kind of got their own ideas about that. I personally think that it is a distraction, and it also is tapping into certain energy centers in the body that are really important to help send the message to the body for us to relax, for us to calm down. So this is, at the root of it, a calming tool, but it has been used for a little bit of everything. It helps people with weight loss. It helps people with panic attacks. It helps people with anything that they're just wanting to, anytime that they're wanting to center themselves and bring themselves back to a place of calm and address a particular issue. So you can use that actually to help you when you're struggling with a thought, that like when you're stuck in your head and you're having a really hard time releasing those negative thoughts or shifting your thinking. Tapping is a great tool for it to come in and for you to use it, because it'll help you to shift your thinking. It'll help you to feel better so that you can begin to have more positive thoughts and begin to challenge those negative thoughts. So it's a great tool for just like bringing that calm and that centering, so that you can come back to yourself and actually do the work and take the steps that'll be helpful to you. So There'll be separate handouts for the tapping because I want you to see the diagrams of that and to be able to see the images of exactly the tapping spots. But I will go through them with you here in this video as well. What I would say to you with the tapping is don't overthink it, let it be really simple. The first couple times you're going to probably want to do that with the handout so that you are learning the different locations where you want to tap. But let yourself, as you get a little bit more practice with it, just sort of flow with it and enjoy it and let yourself relax. So what you want to do before you do the tapping is you want to give yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate whatever it is the problem that you're working on. So let's say that you're working on finding a place of calm. Maybe you're feeling really anxious about something. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you feeling? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how angry are you feeling? So whatever it is that you're working on. So let's say, probably if you're choosing to do tapping, maybe that number is a little bit higher. So let's say that number is at 8. And then you're going to go through your tapping routine. So I really like to start at the top of the head. And what you do with the tapping is you're going to tap on these spots for the period of time that you say the affirmation. So the affirmation is always, even though I'm feeling, so let's use anxiety as the example for today. So even though I'm feeling anxious, and here's the other part of it, I deeply love and accept myself. So you would do the affirmation on the points. So you want to start here on the top of the head. Even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. And then you're going to move here to the right above the eyebrows. And you can do one side at a time, you can do both sides at a time. So even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm feeling anxious, right here on the temples, I completely love and accept myself. Now this might be a little different from the handouts, but this has been my routine for so long that I do it in this order. Even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. So right here under the eyes, you would do. Okay. Chin. Even though I feel anxious, I completely love and accept myself. Now here on the chest, the spot, you kind of want to find, there's a spot, you'll get used to it. There's a spot that's a little sore, your sore spot, I would say, and that's where you want to tap. So I like to do this one hand at a time. Even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. And then you want to do the other side, finding that sore spot. Even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. And you can choose to do the under the armpits like this. I feel always kind of silly and uncomfortable doing it this way. I prefer to just, for me, this is a little more comfortable. So just one arm at a time across the body. Even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. And then you're going to do the karate chop. Even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. And then the other hand, even though I'm feeling anxious, I completely love and accept myself. And you could use, I mean, you don't have to use that particular affirmation. That is the standard tapping affirmation, but you could use whatever affirmation. So if you've created an affirmation for yourself that you're really connecting with and you're really wanting to drill in, use that. You want to use that. So you want to do that, and then so that is the whole progression, and then you're going to repeat as needed. So then you're going to check back in with yourself. Where's my number at? Okay, so my number was at 8, and now I am maybe at a 6. So a 6 still kind of high. So you would want to run back through the tapping again, and you want to bring yourself down to a lower number. So you might do several rounds of that to bring yourself down, but I know just from doing that one time, I can feel quite a bit more calm, and I wasn't even feeling particularly anxious beforehand. So it's a really nice tool to use whenever, wherever you need it, when you find yourself feeling stuck and you're needing to do something. So you want to run through that and keep going with that. So you'll find those handouts for the tapping, and it'll show you the different positions for that. But let yourself kind of just enjoy it and go through it, and don't think about it too much. One of the things that I have found is that I have particular spots that seem a little bit more relaxing than others. So I will go through the entire progression, but every once in a while I'm just needing, maybe I don't have time to do the whole progression, or I'm just feeling called to do only specific spots. So I say listen to that intuition and only tap on those particular spots that feel important. Like for me, these chest ones are really important. This really brings me a lot of calm. So you want to make sure that you are doing those. And you don't have to tap like incredibly hard, but get an intuitive sense of what feels good and what feels right for you. And so for some of us that might be harder, for some of us that might be lighter. And in terms of the pace, this is probably a good pace, but again, intuitively feel that out. You know, what pace do you feel like you need to use? What pace is feeling best and right for you? So play around with that, use that as a tool, and see where that gets you. So that is what I have to share with you guys for today. And so for homework, I encourage you, keep up with that meditation, keep going with that, add that in if you're not doing it. And I would really encourage you to give the tapping a try, to start to write down some of this thinking that you're having so that you can begin to break it down, understand yourself a little bit better, and begin to make some shifts with that thinking. So best of luck to you guys. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys next week with our next class. Thank you, and take care.